करम कर दीजिए कर दीजिए करम कर दीजिए.
Welcome, Pragya and Paroma, to Made in India.
Thank you so much, May. It's really a pleasure talking to you and being here on your platform.
I'm super glad. So, Sacred Love from your self titled April 2021 release, and this is your debut EP, right?
Yes.
So, I wanted to understand, can you tell me a little bit about Sacred Love, the song, what it's about, that kind of thing?
Sacred Love, it's based on Raag Desh. It's a classical song. It's a bandish, classical bandish, Chota Khayal, which I learned from my mom. And this album is a tribute to my mom. So both of us, we have learned classical music and everything from our mom only. So when we, like Sandeep came up with this idea, so why not give a tribute to your mom? Let's do an EP. So because these, classical songs, they are so wonderful, but they don't reach out to people in the way, because they are so exclusive. So what he did, it was his idea. So what he did is he got some musicians from the West and they collaborated and he produced the album. And here it is. So Sacred Love it talks about, divine love, of course. It's the name is Karama Kara DJ. So if you see Karama Kara DJ, it's again praising the Lord. So that's why it is named as Sacred Love.
So, as you just mentioned, this particular record is actually, like you said, a tribute to your mother. And your mother, from whatever I've done my deep dive research on, was Manushri Dasgupta. She was a renowned Hindustani classical singer from Kolkata. And this, to me, is fascinating because that basically means your music was such a huge part of your life. You must have been surrounded by musicians all the time in your house, right?
Absolutely. So I remember when we were growing up, we always had tabla players in house who would practice with us,
Yeah.
So my dad, though he was a business person, but he was like he supported my mom in a lot of ways, every possible way. So the environment at our place was always, we had seen so many renowned, not only renowned legends, Amne Samne, like Bismillah Khan Sahab, then Hari Prasad Chaurasia, all these people. So, it's really, when I look back now, I think I was so lucky to be a part of this kind of a system. Like I was born as Manjushri Dasgupta's daughter. So I really feel really great that way.
Oh my God, that's incredible. I can only imagine how privileged it must be to be able to firstly have your mom be this incredible singer, but also to just, like you said, like you would just be like this is so funny because it's like just, hello, we would like tabla, and then tabla will come. Like, that's amazing that you just have, these great players, come and do these like sessions at your house. That must have been really fun to sort of be a part of. So did you sing a lot with your mother as well, like growing up?
I started singing for All India Radio Kolkata when I was in 4th standard. But then, I come from a Bengali setup, so where education is more important. So we had the first thing in our, everybody had to say, like, first complete your education, then anything else. So वो हम professionally, तो when we were singing, when we were growing up, so we were, of course, music was a very much integral part of our lives, but then also so was education. So we used to, of course, go with our mom to the concerts like Doverland Music Conference, Sadarang Music Conference. She used to perform, and we were little girls, little kids. So we used to go and watch it. Pura raat bhar wo hota tha generally, in Canada. Yeah. So entire night, whole night, classical music being performed, and that's really divine. Now, like that time, I did not understand so much, but still we would be awake, wide awake, listening to at 5 a.m. in the morning Bismillah Khan Sahab playing. Of course, music was there. At the same time, education was also very, very important.
Fair
So
enough.
both things we used to juggle.
So, I'm kind of curious, did you have a chance to sing with your mother, like, at home and practice? Like, did you get that chance to sort of, because you're obviously, like I said, this debut EP is a tribute to your mother. So did you get an opportunity to just sing with your mom all the time? Or was it quite separate? Or, were you learning from other people?
No, we of course she was a teacher also. So every day she would teach us, okay, this is how the riyaz would happen, this. But if you are talking about any album together, yeah, we have one album, which my mom was also a singer-songwriter. So she could write in Bengali and compose. So when I was in 10th standard, we released an album which was completely composed and written by her. So rather, we had two albums. We made two albums. One was on my mom was also a professor in Sanskrit in a college. So her knowledge about Sanskrit was like intense. So what we did a stotra ka ek it was a tribute, not a tribute. Chandi part
during Durga Puja.
Durga Puja. We in Calcutta, Durga Puja is
Very,
massive.
it's a big thing.
So we did an album where we put all the stotras together, and it was called Jago Devi Jago. So even that had original composition. So in that particular album, me and my mom came together, but that was very little. Like we didn't really collaborate as such. Like me and my sister, we do, but me and my mom, only one album is there. I think where she had sung one song, I had sung one song, and she had one song. So it was a mixed bag kind of a thing. But nothing is out there as like in present day the collabs that we do, nothing like that. But of course, we used to always sing together because she would teach us, and every like pura everything she would only guide.
So what was something that you learned from her that you kind of still cherish till now?
So for my pitching, my mom taught me one technique. So it would be like put your head down and then do the practice this way. So cut to once I had one uncle who was at his place. So all the renowned
Organizer.
He was a very renowned organizer, and at his place all these Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, Jagjit Singh Ji, and everyone would come. Because he was the only organizer in Bengal who would arrange for these kind of shows. So one day I was singing in front of Jagjit Singh Ji. So he was telling me, that if you have to get your pitch perfect, you have to do this gung, it should come from the nose. So what my mom taught and what he was teaching was in the same lines. So, so many things to cherish. Then, for the tempo thing, how one should, make your tempo ekdam perfect. So what are the things that you should do? How to make your pitch perfect? So all these things, everything I cherish and I miss so much because now I need it most, but I don't have her right now.
It's always nice to kind of remember the things that, like it's all these unbelievably tiny things that you remember. It's not even like the big stuff. It's the small things that you go, oh my gosh, you taught me how to do that. Now I will forever do that.
Exactly.
And it's like her little memory sort of lives on and her advice lives on in you as well. So I'm curious. Firstly, I have to ask you, who's the older sister? Who's the younger sister?
You want the chronological age or the real age, the mental age?
Fight begins now.
No, that is that is the actual question.
Okay.
It's there's a chronological age and there's a mental age.
Give me both. I want to know both.
So chronologically, of course, I am the elder one.
Okay.
But if you go by the mental age, then she's the elder one.
She's not.
So when you
taken
say
birth yet.
she, Pragya, you're the older sibling and Paroma
Yeah.
is younger. But technically,
Younger.
Paroma is the more mature one.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're bang on.
I love it. I'm kind of curious, have the two of you always kind of felt like, that you both wanted to make music together, or have you always felt quite independent of each other?
No, so we've been independent mostly.
Yeah.
So we have our individual tracks as well.
Yeah.
But we also do a lot of other things together. We are business partners. We have formed a company where we are working together. But the only thing with us is we work a lot together, but we fight so much that at one point people say, why do you guys even live together? You should just stay apart. We have such massive, I mean, the fights are just
Oh,
people.
I would.
Yeah.
So I
Like
was.
when we were kids, I'll tell you this, it's
Please tell
very
me.
funny.
I can't wait to hear
We
this.
used to have hatapai, like we used to fight. She would catch me by my
Hair?
hair. You know, she would just fling something at me like that. And once it happened that my mother had to come with a chhadi, with a stick to stop us because she
Oh, no.
kept saying, "Bas karo," like you guys just stop, but we just wouldn't listen. So she had to stop us with her chhadi. You
That's
either stop,
amazing.
I'm gonna beat you up.
And
So it's
the
like that.
beauty of all of this is that you both came together to pay tribute to her with your EP, which I think is kind of poetic and very beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So even if, and again, I think this is really telling of siblings that work with each other, because I work with my brother and we both work in a company like in Made in India together. And I think it is a real test, I think, of a sibling relationship to be able to work together, but it's not just working together, it's also working in a creative field like music. Because there is no right answer. Everything is very subjective. So when you are sort of balancing making something that is a creative project, and especially when it's music, when you guys, I mean, like you said, you do fight, you do disagree. What happens then with the two of you? Like, what are the kind of things you disagree about? And then how do you sort of get over it?
So creative calls basically she takes because I
Paroma's
always
boss for creative calls.
yeah, actually.
Well, that's
And
good.
the business calls and all I generally take.
That's good.
So because you know, even I come from a corporate background. I have been working with radio, with television for quite some time. I was a radio jockey. I was with television. I was handling the music.
But this is actually good that you created this demarcation so that, like, when it actually comes down to the decision making, then, you know, I always think that especially in these kind of relationships, there's that give and take. There's one person where you're like, okay, you make the decision and I'm not going to fight you on that unless it's like really bad. But I think when you know, sometimes you have this where you can read each other's minds. Like sometimes I just can look at my brother and he'll just like know what I'm thinking, or vice versa. I'm sure like the two of you
Exactly.
also.
Yeah, that's chemistry. That chemistry actually it works, you know.
It really does.
Because even when we go for some meeting,
Yeah.
some pitch or something, so the way she looks at me, I understand.
Maybe,
Okay, I'm going
somewhere
wrong
wrong.
somewhere. So I'll be like, okay.
It is, and I honestly, when you like having a sibling, it's like that. You know, you can look at each other and be like, to something like.
Exactly. You understand it so well. And the best part about siblings is there is no offending the other person, right? Like,
Oh my God, that's so
you can be upset with me for a while, but that's about it. Like, if it's an outsider, you have to be careful about whether you're offending the person.
Yeah.
So with siblings, you'd rather offend. You'll choose the harshest of language to tell your brother or your sister because you want to hurt them at that point. But you also know that you can always undo this.
That's true.
Whereas with an outsider, you can't do that.
You have to be so much more. It's so interesting you put it. You'd be like, I'm okay with offending my sibling. And it's true though. I mean, it sounds like a really odd way of putting it, but I absolutely understand where you're coming from because a lot of the time I can just say exactly, my brother could probably say, yeah, I'm not going to help you with that. You just got to do it yourself. And so, but I'm not offended by that because I'm like, okay, well, and in that sense, I can also tell him the same thing. I can also be super frank. And like you said, just say exactly how you feel and they not be offended because you're just used to being unbelievably honest all the time. So there's
Absolutely
no
true.
barrier. There's nothing. And there's no offense because, I mean, you reached a stage where how can I get offended now by this? It's so nothing.
Actually,
Absolutely.
true,
Yeah.
true.
So this was interesting when looking at the kind of research that we'd done. And there was something interesting that you talked about, and I'm curious about this, which is that I think you very candidly have talked about the fact that there are not enough opportunities. Because I think the two of you do have experience with regards to like playback singing and that kind of work. And you have talked about there being not enough opportunities for songs for female singers in Bollywood and the film industry, and that it is quite male dominated, and that you've wanted to have actresses maybe speak out or, force singers or labels to do more. Do you think not enough is being done, or there are not enough opportunities? And why do you think that is?
I do think somewhere, women also are responsible for it because we are just ready to accept whatever comes our way instead of just putting our foot down and claiming or demanding things. So, in our world, even in Bollywood, I see the male singers, hold their ground. They're like, I will charge this much or I will do this. This is where you have to book my recording. They are very specific about their demands. Women are like, oh, you're giving me a song, that's more than enough. They don't put it in these words, but for some reason I see that's the attitude.
This thing
for
of
some reason.
gratefulness, as though they're grateful for the opportunity rather than like, well, you've picked me because I'm
Yes.
good.
If you go just 20 years back, there was no such system as a woman being just a part of a song in just one line. She's just the presence in the song. Right now, a woman's contribution to a song is, she's just a presence. There has to be some female presence in the song. Back in the day, if there were three antaras are verses in the music, so it would be equally divided, one, and one duet. But now the whole song would be male. Just that 1-2 lines, somebody comes, sings, and just floats away, and then we're just happy to accept that. But yeah, so that is an issue.
Can I ask, why do you think that's changed?
Because they're not demanding. So the other day only, I feel that we are not much demanding. That is one of the reasons. Maybe. And honestly speaking, I see this it has been a patriarchal system, always. Even in the West, I'm like, it's no different. I have heard Bibi Rexa and people like these. I have heard their interviews where they're saying that women are not given, on the billboards, they're not given a spot or playlisting and all that. So if they have to go through, and then they are criticized for being old, for being too skinny, too fat, body shaming, all kinds of shaming are for women. All that matters for a male singer is how you sing. But for a woman, how you look on stage, what you're wearing, and the moment you're, reaching 30 or something, they just pick on you, you're too old. And that happens in the West. India, though, chhod hi do. But that happens in the West as well, in music. I'm glad that doesn't happen in the world of, acting that much. Because we see a lot of women in their 40s leading, like, in these web series, the lead character is never a 20-year-old girl. It's always a mother of a 20-year-old or something. But in music, I see that, glamour is associated with women more than your acumen as a musician. Your how good you are as a musician is secondary. Whereas how you look on stage is what matters.
No, fair. And I honestly think that's across media in general. I think it really doesn't matter if you're a woman in the limelight, you are absolutely judged for the way you look.
Yes, and we also don't stand by each other. That's one thing, like, I think it's not our fault. It's been, we've been programmed this way for generations. And maybe we are the first generation who are understanding or realizing that we've been played for so many centuries. Now we're taking a stand. Maybe in 20 years or 30 years, you'll see there's a drastic difference. I think.
I do think I agree with you that there's a huge difference between like a generation above us and above them, because I think we've lived through a digital age, which I think has led to some level of isolation. And I think in some level, a lot of us don't, not that we don't know how to get together, but I just don't think we understand each other's problems as well, or the nuance of those problems. So I feel like now is a time where people are speaking out because of the internet and the opportunity to be able to say how you feel out into the open. But I agree with you that I feel like it is more, there needs to be more sort of coming together of people and working together.
You know what I feel is, we as women, we must have this bro code which men have. Nothing bro, it's all fine. That bro code has to be, implemented by women.
Oh my God.
Only then it'll be.
And it is. And I mean, it's scary because, literally this is something that we're talking about, opportunity. I recently had a friend of mine who sent me a post of a really well-known Kathak dancer, and sort of the Me Too campaign in the classical space has also been like, there's so much suppression of like women's voices, and there is this idea, and there's so much silencing that's happening. So even with no one, the moment you start telling your story, the moment that other women know what happened to you, there is a sense of camaraderie. There is this sense of like, are you okay? What happened? And just that, right? Like a lot of people just don't say anything because they're constantly afraid. This whole thing of not speaking up when opportunities are there or not being able to say anything is because women are afraid they're going to lose a chance. Oh, if I say anything, the next time they won't take me. And like, that's the scary thing. And this is not just, at least, women who are more established. It's also about helping younger women. Like one of the things that I've also realized is that they're really looking up to people to, women who are like, these girls from school and college who are coming out who want to who admire other women and want to see themselves in a light where they're like, oh, I want to be like her. And how does she do what she does? And so I do think there needs to be so much more communication, even though we're in an age where communication is like supreme. But I think there's not enough being said, or not enough being talked about, or not enough opportunities that are being given. So I understand where it comes. It's interesting to understand it from, a different industry and a different part of the industry. So it's interesting to know. So to go back to your EP, so as you had mentioned before, you've basically picked different rags and and I'm assuming these are quite traditional rags, right? That you've picked. And you said that, is there any significance for why you've picked these 4 rags for your EP? Any connection to your mother, since it was a tribute to her?
All of them. Some of them, I think one of them was Raag Bhimpala, not Bhimpalasi, what was it?
Tilang.
Tilang was one of the first rags I learned from her. It was one of the first bandishes that I learned from her. And then Chaya Nut, there was this Chaya Nut. I don't know, I can't remember the name of the title of the song.
Okay.
Chaya Nut, that's the rag. And I heard my mother sing it, and I used to admire, I used to just love listening to her. And I must confess now that as a child, I used to find it a little boring. Where I would be listening to a Michael Jackson or a Madonna or, somebody. Yeah. And suddenly there's this one recital going on for 3 hours. And I'm just staring. It's 2:00 in the morning, and there's some great artist just playing something. Yeah. As a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, you're like, why am I here? When will I go home? It's like that. But looking back, I think that is a privilege that I have been exposed to, which a lot of people would trade anything for. Listening to these greats. You can't even buy their tickets and attend their concerts. And as a default, I could attend those, and I value that. I realize the value of it now so much more. And they giving you tips also. We remember once Bismillah Khan Sahab telling us, like giving us a small tip कि अगर 40 मिनट ना भी हो, every day you should at least do your riyaz for 10 minutes क्योंकि गाड़ी हर रोज चलनी चाहिए. No, so what he said is
That's
like,
a good parallel. I like that.
instead of doing 40 minutes one day and then giving a gap of 7 days, you do 10 minutes every day. That will benefit you more than if you do 4 hours in a day. And regularity is what, it's like more like, you know, if you scientifically see it, muscle memory. Your system is getting the thing. Instead of one day you do 5 hours of riyaz and then don't do for 1 month 3 days. Yeah. So we were so young that we couldn't even understand what he meant by that. Bismillah Khan Sahab, he's not even a legend, he's God, literally. You must look him up.
Yeah.
He's a Shehnai player.
That's
Ustad
incredible.
Bismillah Khan. And getting these little, see, they are a university
In
on
themselves. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's like you go to a library, you read 10 books, and you talk to somebody who has knowledge for 10 minutes. You learn more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they have done all the real experience.
And then in
I
that
find that
sense, yeah, I think that you also feel like you absorb things better when someone's sort of teaching it to you.
First-hand experiences when you hear, and from such legendary people. So naturally, it is,
So, was there any moment, and again, because this was a tribute to your mother, was it quite emotional, sort of, when you were putting it together? Did you ever have any moments where you're like, I really miss her?
See, we miss her every day. Yeah. And now that she's not there anymore with us, so when musically, see, honestly, I would say both of us are guilty of this. When it's your mother or one of your, you know, when it's somebody in the family and they want to teach you, you take it for granted. So, like, she was always the singer in the family.
Pragya.
She would do her riyaz every day, Pragya. And I was one of those who just did what I wanted to. Like, if I wanted to sing, I would sing. If I didn't want to sing, I'll come and check the audience. If somebody said, ki, beta ek gana suna do, hota hai?"
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I don't like these people. No, I can't sing now. So I just walk off. I was one of those very moody and people like that. So when mom used to teach us, so if it's a teacher who you pay and you go and do a 1 hour class, you know, a week or something, you just listen to them like they're your teachers.
Yeah.
But when it's your mother and you're like, take it for granted, please don't tell me all this, I'm not in a mood to do this. So we both of us have done that and we could have learned so much more. We regret that now. But we haven't, you know, because whenever we had a question, this encyclopedia was always at home. So we didn't need to, Mom, what is this Raag? Okay. So now that person is not there to consult. So now like, oh my God, we should have learned all that, you know. It's such a waste. Like she said, my mother was a lecturer of Sanskrit in a college. So we should have learned Sanskrit. It's a classical language. It's a, you know, it's an heritage for India, you know. But we know nothing of Sanskrit. We have learned Urdu from an outsider, from a teacher outside. We've not learned Sanskrit from our own mother.
You forget that you have such an easy resource and be like,
everybody takes that for granted. I think it is human nature that everybody does it, you know. And you know, unfortunately, when you realize it, it's kind of late.
No, fair enough. But I think your tribute to her is beautiful. And I have to admit, I heard obviously the whole EP and my favorite, it's called Love in These Times. I love that song. It was so good. I think I've heard it like a million times and I was like, this song has to be on the show. So can you tell me a little bit about the song?
So it is, again, it's a Chota Khayal. It's called Ja Ja Re Apne Mandir Ba. See, most of these tumris and, you know, traditional bandishes are like, you know, this thing between Radha and Krishna. So it's like that kind of a conversation between Radha and Krishna, that kind of a thing. So really, there's no meaning to it as such. It's just that Radhika is kind of complaining to Krishna, ki, you go back to your mandir. Why are you, my in-laws will hear me, and But this song I really love because I love how it's very percussive. It being it's got that rhythmic pattern also, and
I think that's why I
has
liked
that
it so much. I love
Yes,
a good rhythm section, a good bass and beat. So yeah, it's really
yes. So
good.
this has it, and the most special part about this song, special thing about this song is, see, we were all in different. We have recorded this album in peak Corona time, so everybody was at home that time. So we were in Bombay, Sandeep Chowta was in Bangalore, and the musicians, some of them in the UK, some in the US.
Yeah.
So, and we, even 2 years, if you go back, we couldn't imagine such a collab so smoothly. But now it is possible. And the best thing what I find about this album is we are from India and we are doing what we've known since childhood. And people who are jamming to it have no idea about this genre, about the ragas. So what they're bringing to the song is their interpretation of it with no bias whatsoever, because they've never heard this before. And that, East meets West, what has happened in this album is the highlight of
Pure and so different.
So there are a lot of brilliant Western musicians in India itself, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, they have an exposure. They have heard a lot of Indian classical. So that is there in the back of their mind. So they try to match the ragas. Whereas when you're coming from a completely different setup,
Yeah.
you just are neutral to it. And that's what is working for this album.
That's the
I
beauty
think.
of this album. If you
Talk about the songs, so this, not just this song, all the songs, I think that is what attracts me to this album,
Yeah, because you felt like it was a true collaboration, that they're coming with something fresh and new to this, that they're not
Very
just
fresh.
trying to do what they're
From
told to
different
do.
parts of the world, from various parts of the
Yeah.
world. So that's so beautiful.
I love it. So yeah,
Music is what is uniting us in this.
Of course.
Truly.
so that's the last song, and I'm really excited. Are you guys working on anything, between the two of you? Are you planning to release more music?
Yes, we have been working on some stuff. Let's see how it. Most of the times, we are working on each other's work space also. Like if she is doing something, I'm always, suggesting things, and vice versa. So we keep doing. But
Yeah, we are planning for a Bengali song, which two of us will be doing.
Nice.
So we are still in the process of
we
thinking
keep
and all.
doing a lot of stuff because we are at home. We are staying together.
Yeah,
so
it's bound to happen.
some of it takes shape, some of them don't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I get that. But thank you so much for being on the show. So great to have you guys.